I'm live. Welcome. Welcome on this Monday morning. Aren't Mondays great? You know, it's the whole week we have ahead of us to achieve really wonderful things. I can't promise you that you'll reverse your type 2 diabetes in a week. But what I am going to focus on this 3-day challenge is about setting your mindset up so that you can achieve type 2 diabetes reversal. Because one of the things I found as I reversed my type 2 diabetes was that having the end in mind is really so important, so critical. And it's what pulled me through a few times when I almost gave up. And I said to myself, you know, there's a big, big challenge to be followed here. And I know why I'm doing this. I know why this is important to me. And it's those reminders that really pull us through those toughest moments. Those toughest moments that, as I say, other things suddenly take a massive priority and things can potentially slip. So getting your mindset right is so absolutely critical that I wanted to run this 3-day challenge on that subject. Now, just so that you're aware and you can watch this on replay, this session will probably last, it'll be done within an hour. And then each subsequent session, I'll try and fit in within 30 to 40 minutes. So there won't be long sessions, but I quite understand doing them at midday may not be right for you. And that's absolutely fine. The main thing is to do the challenge, to do this for yourself. And then you'll reap the benefits. So let me get started. Let me tell you a little bit more about the challenge itself. Again, welcome if you're just joining us now. And let me outline what these 3 days are going to look like. So really, in day one, it's all about benchmarking. It's all about where are you now? Asking where are you now? And we'll segment this, and I'll formulate a nice, easy way for you to gauge where you are right now. And that is really so important because as you go through this journey, and as you get towards type 2 diabetes reversal, it's, I think, really critical that you mark your successes. You mark how far you've gone. And unless you benchmark at the beginning where you are, you'll very soon lose track of that as your health improves, as all the things you want start coming to you. It's very easy to forget where you started. And this will be a conversation piece for you because people will see you and they'll say, oh, something's changed with you. You look really healthy right now, Bob. And you'll want to tell them the story. And marking where you are right now in terms of your thinking, in terms of really where you position yourself is a source, is a constant homing source, and will really remind you of how far you've come on this journey. So anyway, day one today will be about benchmarking. Day two is about setting up for your future self. So where do you envision your future self as somebody who's reversed type 2 diabetes? What will you be doing? What will you be thinking? How will you grow as a result of getting there? And day 2, we don't touch on how you're going to get there. I'll discuss some of those options with you on day 3. But day 2 is about creating a vision that you can not only see, but more importantly, you can feel. It's an emotional connection with where you're going to be. And that emotional connection is so important because it's those emotions that pull us to a really important point where we want to be. We create that vibration. We create that reality from that emotion. That's really where it comes from. So that's day 2. And as I say, day 3 is going to be about how you get there. So I'll give you a few options. I currently have 3 programs on offer: Foundation, Future, and Forever. And I will outline how those 3 programs might help you get there, or indeed how you might like to get there on your own, as I did. And it took me 20 odd years to formulate a journey that's repeatable and available as a shortcut to you. So all that's for day 3, and there is a competition here as well. So the competition is a free place on my Next Forever program. And that has a value of around £6,000. In fact, I'd argue it's a lot more because of the health state it puts you in at the end of that program. That is available as part of the competition. I've put the rules on the guides in the T2D group. And remember, this challenge is being run exclusively in the T2Dreversal group. So even although I'm streaming these challenges to YouTube, if you want to get involved, if you want to make yourself open to winning this competition, as I say, worth about £6,000, then you would need to come along to the T2Dreversal group, join up there, and there you can get fully involved in the channel, in the challenge. You can do your homework. You can ask questions as you go through. You can give us comments about what this has brought up for you. So if you really want to get engaged with this and open yourself up to other possibilities, like winning the competition, then get along to the T2Dreversal group. And for those who are already here, well done, you're already part of the competition if you wish to get involved. As I say, there's a guide in T2Dreversal group which will explain a little bit more about the rules. So I next wanted to touch on why I'm here talking to you about this, a little bit about my story. And I'll take you back to the year 2000, when I first found out that I had type 2 diabetes. I remember sitting in that hospital waiting area, and ahead of me was a long corridor that dog-legged to the right at the end. I couldn't see what was going on there, but there were lots of doors that were closed, but lots of people going up and down the corridor, some of them with trolleys, some of them without, some of them seemingly with no purpose at all. And I was ushered into this first room. "Come in, Mr. Leggett," the nurse said. So I came in and I was told to have a seat on the weighing scale, and that was the beginning of my processing. I was being processed. So they took my weight. She then measured me, asked me to sit back down, took my blood pressure, and then asked me to take another seat in the waiting room. And I did. And I was a little nervous. I'd not been to this place before. Then the second door opened. "Mr. Leggett, come with me, please." And I did. And I then found myself sat in front of this doctor. The first thing he said to me was, "Do you know why you're here, Mr. Leggett?" And I tend to be a bit comical. So I said to him, "Oh, well, doctor, I was just off shopping and I just thought I'd pop in on the way." And he looked at me as if I was a little bit foolish. And I said, "Yes, I know why I'm here." He said, "Well, Mr. Leggett, you've got type 2 diabetes. And the good news is that we have lots of treatment protocols for you." So then we had a conversation about lots of different treatment protocols. And I left that office with a slight sense of relief. And I've heard this from many clients since, that at the point of diagnosis, there is a real sense of relief. I know what this label is. I know the tribe that I belong to. And my tribe is called type 2 diabetes. And I left that office with my first medication. It was called metformin, and it's often the first medication that type 2 diabetics are put on. And I took that home and I started taking this, and it had some very, very poor effects on my stomach. It made me very constipated. Now, my mum had started this journey 4 years earlier, and it had given her a runny tummy. So I tolerated this for a while, and after 4, 5, 6 months, I returned to the doctors and I explained what this was doing to me. And they said, "No problem, Mr. Leggett, we'll give you a laxative to help you with your bowel movements." So that was the second thing they gave me. So they piled one on top of the other, but I was still having problems. So I went back, and this happened a number of times, really. I think I cycled through every class of available drug for type 2 diabetes. But the effect on me, on my gut microbiome, and my bodily health was never good. There was always a side effect. So, as I say, I cycled through all these drugs, and it then took me to 2015. And by then, I'd tried most of them. And I'd got rather sick of trying a new drug and experiencing a new side effect. So I said to the doctor, I said, I think I need to start on insulin now, because these tablets, they're not doing anything good for me. And I had this weird thought in the back of my head, oh, insulin, oh yeah, that's a natural thing. It must be a lot better than all these pills. How wrong I was. So for the next 7 years, I was on insulin. And the impact on me was, well, it's huge. I put on 9 kilos over that time. What's that? 9, 18, about just over 1.5 stone. And I was filled with anxiety. Anxiety about, have I taken enough insulin? I've never eaten in this Greek restaurant before. How much insulin shall I inject for Greek food? Have I got my glucose tablets with me in case I've injected too much? And there were 3 times over the course of that 7 years that I actually ended up in hospital because I was on 2 types of insulin, one for meal times and a longer lasting one that I have at night. And on those 3 occasions, I picked up the wrong injector. I injected myself with what I thought was a long-lasting insulin, and it was in fact the mealtime insulin. So I was in overdose. Effectively, I'd injected about 5 or 6 times as much insulin as I needed. And as a result, I ended up in hospital. And it was a worrying time for my wife particularly, and my son too, although we knew a little bit less about it. And then in November 2022, someone who was very close to the family, he wasn't a blood relative, but we called him Uncle John. Uncle John lost his leg to uncontrolled type 2 diabetes. And Christmas followed the following month, and Luke, who was 7 at the time, that's my son, we were sharing a moment, we'd all got full bellies from eating our Christmas meal, and we were having a bit of bonding time. And Luke said to me, he said, "Dad, Uncle John had his leg removed. You've got type 2 diabetes. When are you having yours done?" And that hit me dead in the face. It wasn't a question I ever wanted to hear again. And I thought to myself, I've had all these calls to action. I've had pre-diabetes, I've had tablets, I've had insulin, and I've chosen to ignore them all because life's busy, isn't it? Life throws lots of stuff at us, and we don't have time to focus on what's important. But from that moment on, I reflected very differently on my life. I realized that not only did I want to see my son thrive, but I wanted to be alive to see his children thrive too. And I did the maths, and I worked out that I had to live to about 118 in order to give time for both of those major events to happen. And one thing just stared me just blank in the face, that type 2 diabetes wasn't congruent with that aim. I wasn't going to live to 118 or anywhere close. and maintain my type 2 diabetes status. So that was the first thing that needed to change. I did research in a way that I've never done research before, but this was just so important to me that I did it, and I acquired the knowledge, and I realized that it could be done, and that what I was attempting to do was not unique, was not something that extraordinary. There were other people who'd done this beforehand. So I was really buoyed by that, and I realized that as I talked to my family and told them about what I was doing, I could relate that this wasn't just a pipe dream. It's something quite realizable, and it's something that I wanted to realize for myself. So that was my journey as I went through it, and I can report right now that I've reversed my type 2 diabetes. I'm no longer on insulin, no longer taking any tablets, purely diet controlled. But it all starts with mindset. So that's really where I want to pull things back towards the benchmarking subject of today. So throughout this process, it's important to me in order to measure progress. All my life, it's been about control. So I've been a project manager, I've been a change manager. But even as an engineer, the process that I used was about recording results at all stages, so that you had a measurement of progress. And I think whatever stage of type 2 diabetes you're at, this sense of measurement, not just in terms of your diabetes, but general measurement in terms of your well-being, in terms of your mindset, in terms of your growth, in terms of all these things, is really so important. And it's amazing as you have this general perception of where you are against all these different modalities, but then you're only going to change one, and that's your type 2 diabetes. But by changing that one, you explode all the other aspects of your life and create monumental growth because of that energy that has been released. Because type 2 diabetes does rob you of energy. And the reason that I started evangelizing about this and telling others, teaching others how they can reverse their type 2 diabetes too, is because as a business owner, over that period, particularly between 2015 and 2022, when I was on insulin, I lost in excess of £250,000 in fee income. Because I was a business owner, I was an independent contractor, and I simply didn't have the mental capacity to deliver what my client needed. My assignments became shorter, didn't renew as much. And the gap between assignments also became longer. So those two things really squeezed my income to the point, as I say, that looking back now, I lost in excess of £250,000. And that's why when I look at my 3 programs, I focus on business owners and freelancers, because unfortunately, this is the segment of the population where type 2 diabetes will affect you the most financially. Because we have this wonderful thing called the NHS. And the NHS, as a general thing, provide free health care, or as I prefer to call it, illness maintenance. And perhaps if you're an employee, it's a comfort to know that your health is being looked after for you. That as you get more and more ill, as your health declines, there's someone there to hold your hand and to guide you through the process. Of course, I now realise that that's rather flawed thinking. And for a business owner, like I was, like I am, my declining health was very closely correlated to my declining business health. Because as a small business owner, you are your business, and your health underpins the health of your business. So that's why I focus my services around entrepreneurs, small business owners, because I don't want them to suffer physically, but to suffer the financial loss from type 2 diabetes that I did. So we're going to talk about the method of measurement now. If you haven't got a piece of paper to hand at the moment, just take a minute now, go and grab a piece of paper, because this will be important for your homework as well. Go and grab a piece of paper. I'll pause for a moment. Okay, you're back. If not, when you watch it on replay, you can pause me. So what we're going to do now, it's a wheel of life exercise. Most of you, or many of you, will have heard of the wheel of life exercise. But it's a very useful tool for measuring where you are, and indeed where you want to be too. So I'll run through this process now. When I will actually post a resource, a tool for you to do this on, to plot this on, or you can draw this out on any piece of paper. Let's begin. So there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There will be 8 dimensions to this wheel. And the first one that I want to talk about, and you might want to write this down. In fact, you might want to write this down. The first one I want to talk about is personal growth. So that's the first segment. So what do I mean by personal growth? Well, it's about trying a new pastime, or reading about a new concept or theory that you'd not read about before, or learning a new skill, going out and learning to play tennis, or learning to computer program, or learning to dance with your partner. It's about the new, about expanding your world from where it is. So as with all of these, I'd like you to mark that on a scale of 1 to 10. And please don't agonize over it. Just what's your first sense of where you are right now in terms of regular and fulfilling personal growth. So the next one I want you to write down is wealth. In a traditional wheel of life model, you might see this written as finance. But I prefer to call it wealth because if one is to consider the finance side of things, then oftentimes it becomes quite an emotive and quite a difficult subject to tackle. So let's stick with it at wealth, and by wealth I mean in terms of being able to pay your bills every month, saving for your retirement, and things like that. But as I say, don't agonize too much over this. But where are you in that wealth scale? Again, between 1 and 10. And the next one I want you to think about is family. So what do I mean by family? I mean, how much time do you give to your family? And again, it's about feedback as well. So how supportive is your family? How nurturing and nourishing is your family? So that's the next one. That's a lot of these have an emotional content, but I just want you to come up with a number. When I post the Wheel of Life chart that you can fill in, there is a section at the bottom where you can write notes, because some of these things might trigger a thought in your head that I'd really like to improve on this point or that point. And as those thoughts come up, I've often found that it's a really good idea to capture those so you can write them on the sheet. So the next one that I want to talk about is business. Now, on the traditional Wheel of Life, often this is down as career. But as I say, because I focus my services, I've developed them around freelancers, business owners, small business owners, then that's why it's business for me. But as I say, you can substitute the word career in there. So what do I mean then? Once we got the title in there, what kind of things should you be considering here? So it's basically about how rewarding your work is. Do you go into work every morning with a smile on your face, looking forward to each new day? Or does the day drag rather, and is it really a process that you're not fully engaged in? And it's not just what you're doing, it's about, how successful do you feel at this? If you're in business, how successful do you feel right now? As I say, type 2 diabetes, for me, there was a very, very strong, and my clients have told me this as well, a strong correlation between business health and personal health. Where do you think your business is right now? Again, on a scale of 1 to 10. And then moving on from business, the next one I want to talk about is relaxation. How much time do you really spend on your relaxation? I'm not concerned about what you do right now, but how much time do you spend on relaxation? You might like to think of it in terms of self-care. This is a phrase I see used quite a lot now. But basically, it's time away from work doing what you enjoy, relaxation. So how much time do you dedicate to that? Where would you put that on a scale of 1 to 10? And then we move on to consider relationships. So we've talked about family before, but this is more general. It's about your relationship with friends. How often do you go out and visit friends, or how often do you get on the telephone to have a good chat with a friend? Do you have somebody you confide with, and is that a mutual thing that you do regularly? Are you in a club or a society where you share common interests and use that as a way of providing balance? So relationships, again, a number between 0 and 10. And then we come to spirituality. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're a churchgoer or whatever your religion is, or if you don't have a religion or any strong, any immediate spiritual connection. We all have a spiritual side. I know, for example, that I look at my own spiritual side through my meditations, through the Tai Chi exercises that I do, which is more a physical meditation. And I do spend an amount of time talking to my subconscious mind and effectively communicating with that higher source. So whatever that looks like for you, again, rate it on a scale from 0 to 10. And then I've deliberately left this one to last. But this is what we're really here talking about: your health. And although type 2 diabetes is the keystone here, there might be lots of side tones to your current health state. And again, don't think too long about this. What number comes to mind between 0 to 10? Oh, and I should have mentioned before, 10 is, for health, for instance, would be absolutely perfect health. Absolutely tip-top condition. And 0 to 10, 10 on the scale for any one of these that I've been going through is about, it couldn't be any better. Yeah. So what's your health score from 0 to 10? When I send out the graphics, this is actually done as a wheel. And for those of you in business, you might be familiar with a radar diagram. So as you plot these on the gradient from 0 to 10, you will find it gives you something that, might be something close to a circle, but it gives you what it gives you. It's a useful way, a useful measure that once done, you can store at a point in time, and then you can revisit in 6 months or even 3 months as you start reversing your type 2 diabetes. And you can remark on how factors that you've not even touched on, because you'll be wholly focused on type 2 diabetes, you don't even need to touch on some of these factors, and you'll see monumental growth. Because as I say, that one lever, that one health lever, type 2 diabetes, if you deal with it, if you follow a program, will open up. It will explode into ripples of impact across all of your life and across all of your relationships too. Because believe me, where you are right now is something you carry with you and becomes visible to those you interact with, even if you're not sure it does. People who know you well will get a sense of how well you are. So that's going to be your homework for day one of the challenge. And while we're talking about homework, let me expand a little more on how you can use the challenge and how it can fit in with your life. Because although I'm running it on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of this week, 3 challenge days, this homework can be done at any time. And in fact, I'm going to leave the challenge open for all of this week, including the weekend. So if what we've discussed today you think could be quite interesting to a contact of yours who perhaps has type 2 diabetes, then that's a really good opportunity for you to promote this group, T2Dreversal, and to get them on board the challenge. And of course, that goes towards the competition results. So I've explained there is a guide covering the competition results, but at a high level, what we're talking about here is that you need to introduce at least 10 people into this group. You also need to do your homework. And yes, I'll call it homework because it's work that you need to do away from this. So you need to do your homework, and you need to post it, please, in the T2Dreversal group under this live video stream. And as I say, think about those you know, think about the networks that you belong to, because there are about 1 in 11 people have type 2 diabetes. So even if you're not sure exactly who they are, then chances are that about 11% of a group you're in could well have type 2 diabetes and could well benefit from you sharing this challenge with them. And then it's up to them. But if you do manage to get some of your contacts in, then it's also important that you flag up to me who was your referral. So as they join the group, then welcome them. Welcome them to the group. And they might well mention, hopefully when joining, where they'd heard about this from too. But really, the competition is almost a sideline to this activity, because it's going to intrinsically benefit you just by taking part. And, if you can explode that benefit and gift that benefit to other folks too, then you should be really happy about that potentially you're saving somebody's life, giving them an additional 6 years, because sadly, that's unfortunately how type 2 diabetics die on average 6 years ahead of those without type 2 diabetes. So effectively, you could be gifting somebody 6 years by getting them involved in this program. As you go through this process, I'm going to finish very shortly. As you go through this process, if it brings things up for you, if you notice something interesting that perhaps you'd not noticed before, then tell everybody else, add a comment, because that level of engagement is also important to the competition, but it might resonate terribly with somebody else who perhaps can't find the time or the courage to tell everybody else. So please share as much as you can. I think you're going to really enjoy this. This first day might seem, I guess it might seem a little bit negative to some of you who've done this kind of process before, but it's just so important to capture where we are before we move on from that. When I do this on my programs, I spend a couple of hours with clients looking at this. And I not only look at it through this Wheel of Life perspective, but I go into more depth in terms of their type 2 diabetes reversal history and how things have developed for them. And, there were three really important elements to the program, the kind of the Forever program that I put together. And one of them I've not really talked about so far is the emotional work that we do. So I work with my clients to unpack any trapped emotions that could be underpinning this type 2 diabetes thing that they have, this condition that they have. And, in the early days, in fact, it still amazes me now how many traumas sit at the root of this type 2 diabetes development. And this is baggage that no longer serves. We want to see that done. We want to see that gone. So that emotional context is really important to this. And then there's the coaching concept. So for my future program and my Forever program, you get me as your coach. And in that capacity, I sometimes stray and I act as coach and act as mentor. Because quite frankly, until you've gone through this, you don't have that experience, you don't have that resource within you. As I say, I've been doing this for 22 years now, this type 2 diabetes thing. And I want to shortcut that for you so you don't suffer the physical and financial loss that I did. So I think the coaching aspect is tremendously important. And then foundationally, there is a process here. There are things that need to be done in order to change your weight and change your lifestyle. And at fundamental level, I include them within the foundation program. And of course, they're in each of the future and the Forever programs too. But at a foundation level, I guide you through the process of type 2 diabetes reversal without the coaching support I provide to the future program and without the emotional context which I provide for the Forever program. And really, it's getting rid of that those trapped emotions, that baggage that got my clients to this stage of, got me to the stage of type 2 diabetes in the first place. So thank you very much. I hope you'll enjoy the challenge. I hope you'll post your homework and really get engaged with it. And I hope you'll share it with others who might benefit from the experience too. So it's the beginning of the week. I hope you have a really excellent one, really awesome one. And I look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday. For now, thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye.